person Munira Wilson.
Thank you, Ms Barker. It's a pleasure to serve under your chairmanship today. And can I thank the Petitions Committee for granting this important debate, and to my honourable friend, the member for Caithness, Sutherland and East Ross, for so ably opening the debate. And I'd like to pay tribute to the approximately 166,500 people who've signed this petition, including 184 in my Twickenham constituency. Now, there is much in this bill that many of us can agree on, especially in Part 1. And I think we found, during the course of the passage of this bill, there was cross-party support for measures in Part 1 of this bill to ensure the government goes further in safeguarding and promoting the well-being of our children. And that Part 1 of the bill did include the proposals for a single unique identifier. And so I would just say gently to honourable members who are concerned about this, I don't think it is the precursor to digital ID for our children. And if you look at Professor Jay's report on the independent inquiry into child sexual abuse, one of the biggest issues, and I heard it from her myself when I met her earlier this year, one of the biggest problems in the system was the lack of data sharing between different service providers, between health, between the police, between social services. When you look at some of the young women and girls who were the victims of grooming gangs across the country, some of them were turning up in hospitals with sexually transmitted diseases on a regular basis, and that data was then not being married up with what the police and social services were seeing. And had data been shared better, then those issues might have been picked up. And I would say, and the Royal College of Paediatric and Child Health have also strongly supported a single unique identifier for the very same reason. And I fully agree with my honourable friend, the member for Taunton and Wellington, that there are, of course, concerns about data sharing and data security and privacy, which do need to be tackled and were actually explored in quite a lot of detail during the committee stage of this bill, particularly by the Right Honourable Member for East Hampshire. But I do think, whether it's the NHS number or a different single unique identifier, it is an important provision that is needed to safeguard our children, but also to make sure that we are researching the needs of our children better and commissioning services to meet children's needs better. But Part 2 of this bill, Ms Barker, as a number of honourable members have touched on, particularly the section on academies, does feel a bit muddled and in a number of cases puts the cart before the horse. Now, the Right Honourable Member for East Hampshire looks at the last decade of the Conservative government through rose-tinted glasses, but I would gently remind him, David Laws wasn't in government the last decade of the Conservative government. He was in there the first 5 years, and he did some excellent things, not least introducing the pupil premium. However, I would say that the Conservative government left us with crumbling schools, unable to hire specialist teachers, special educational needs provision in crisis, and a huge persistent absence problem. So I'm not quite sure, given those major issues in our education system, why the government chose to tinker with academies and governance arrangements as their priority education policy, when there's actually limited evidence to suggest that the sort of mixed economy in terms of governance arrangements in our school system is posing a major problem. And with the promised schools white paper hopefully being revealed in the new year, although I think it's been delayed twice already, there is a question as to whether Part 2 was somewhat premature. So, I'm beginning to increasingly wonder whether the government feels the same way, given the bill keeps being delayed in the other place. By the time this bill is returned to the House of Commons, it will have been well over a year since it was first introduced. Now, when the Bill Committee consulted education leaders back in January, the one strong message that came through was the way that the government went about Part 2 of this bill, which, as my honourable friend set out, was done with limited consultation, but also showed a lack of coherent vision for the school system, with no white paper, no consultation or discussion with the frontline or those in leadership positions across the sector. Now, this lack of coherent vision and joined-up thinking seems to be a recurring theme for this Labour government. They introduce free breakfast clubs, but they're not funding them properly. They've capped the number of school uniform items to 3, but that's going to actually risk further inflating prices for hard-pressed families. They propose broadening the curriculum, something we welcome, and which will become statutory for all academies as a result of this bill, but they have failed to set out the funds or a plan to recruit the necessary teachers to deliver it. They voted, during the passage of this bill, they voted against Liberal Democrat proposals to widen eligibility to free school meals, and then subsequently decided to copy and announce the policy and introduce it themselves from next year. Yet throughout the passage of this bill, we Liberal Democrats have sought to engage constructively with the government, tabling amendments and new clauses that sought to improve the bill and address some of the concerns raised in the petition we're discussing today. And so, given the government has already copied at least one of our policies, I hope if the new minister is listening today, she might find some other good ideas in the course of this speech and in the other place. Now, there's a real fear that this legislation, which is seeking to safeguard children who go missing from education, will over-police home educators, most of whom are doing a great job. And I've been very clear at every stage of this bill, and I guess, again, I think there was cross-party support on this, but we Liberal Democrats strongly support a register of children not in school to ensure that vulnerable children do not simply disappear from the system. We also strongly support the right of parents who choose to home educate where that is the best option for their child. However, in oral evidence to the Bill Committee, even the Association of Directors of Children's Services was circumspect about the vast amount of detailed information that home education parents will be expected to supply as set out on the face of this bill. That level of detail risks becoming intrusive and unnecessary. Many home educators choose to home educate their children, not because they want to, but because they feel forced to. There's a crisis in our special needs system, and so much special needs provision just does not meet the needs of those children, forcing many parents to give up work to be able to home educate their child. And by virtue of their children's needs, parents tend to be much more flexible in how they home educate. The very onerous reporting mechanisms will interfere with the flexibility that parents need to provide their children. I tabled various amendments to try and pare back the burdensome nature of the register as set out on the face of the bill. One amendment called for, at the very least, a review of the register's impact on home educators to be carried out within 6 months, to ensure that only reporting requirements that are strictly necessary for safeguarding purposes are retained. We also tabled an amendment that would remove the requirement for parents and carers of children in special schools to secure local authority consent to be home educated. Furthermore, we propose that home educated children are not excluded from national examinations because of financial or capacity constraints. Sadly, the government voted down all our amendments, but I would encourage the new minister to give relevant amendments tabled in the other place serious consideration. Because if we do more, because we must do more if we want to genuinely extend opportunity to every child. Our SEND system is letting down many children, and it is allowing a number of organisations with bad intentions who are exploiting market failure to really exploit the system. And I'm talking here about private equity-run special school providers who are making exorbitant profits, like they have done in children's homes. And they are exploiting, as I say, the lack of provision, and they are holding local authorities and parents to ransom. Now, the budget's latest revelation that the government will be absorbing the costs of SEND provision from local authorities with a projected £6 billion black hole only strengthens the need to start capping the profits of those private special schools. And the bill already makes provision to cap the profits of the same companies that are running children's care homes and fostering agencies. So I ask again the Minister to consider introducing this measure so that no child is left waiting because of lack of resource, because local authorities are being bled dry. And whilst I'm talking of children being left waiting, may I encourage the Minister to also look at another one of our Liberal Democrat proposals, which was to automatically enrol every eligible child for free school meals so that no one misses out on a hot, healthy meal. Durham County Council, previously under its Liberal Democrat-led administration, auto-enrolled 2,500 children and their schools benefited from an additional £3 million in pupil premium funding. In conclusion, Ms Barker, it's not too late for the Minister to improve this bill. I don't believe it needs to be withdrawn wholesale, but instead, with the help of the other place, it can be amended so that there is a strong foundation to improve both safeguarding for our children and strengthen provision for our children in our schools. Thank you.